When I was growing up, my family experienced a lot of hurricanes. I mean, we do live in the hurricane state, after all. But I'm not just talking about real hurricanes. I'm talking about the crazy, metaphorical kind that almost ripped my family apart. I'm Sam, and this is a story about my parents. When I was a little girl, the roles in our house were reversed. Mom was out working, and Dad attempted to stay at home and take care of me and my big sis Cindy. Let's just say he may have burnt dinner more than once, and that our diet pretty much consisted of takeout every night of the week. Anyway, my mom eventually fell pregnant again with my little sister Mandy. And so then she quit her job, and Dad had to go out and find a job again. Then a few years later, my mom gave birth to my little brother, Tyler. And after that, she said she was done. Her big happy family dream was complete. Except it wasn't so happy. You see, my dad was working all the time. He'd pack his bag and say he had lots of business trips. We barely saw him and missed him all the time. But then one day, things went back to normal. I was so happy to have my dad back. A few years later, though, things spiraled. I got home from school, and my mom was sitting on the couch looking like she had been crying. I could hear Cindy upstairs playing loud music. Something was wrong. Mom asked me and my younger siblings to sit down, and then she said, "Kids, we need to talk. It's about your dad." Suddenly, my heart lurched. Had he died? I started crying before Mom even told us what had happened. "Is he dead?" I said between tears. Mom sighed and said, "We're getting a divorce." I was relieved he wasn't dead, but I still felt so upset. I couldn't believe it. I thought Mom and Dad were happily married. It made me angry that Cindy was in her room. Did she not care? So I asked Mom why this was happening, and then she told me Dad had another girlfriend, and that she'd found out because her friend got a new job in a hotel in the next city over, and she had seen Dad there with this other woman. I was so shocked. I didn't know Dad was that kind of man. At that exact moment, he called Mom, and she told him she'd told us. I grabbed the phone and asked, "How could you do this to Mom?" But he didn't reply. Mom just took the phone back and they started arguing. I locked myself in my room for the next few days, and when I had to go to school, I barely talked to anyone. Dad didn't come home after that. He went to stay at a friend's house. But then, a few weeks later, we went out for dinner, and my dad turned up and he gave my mom a kiss. I was so confused. They told us they were back together, and without thinking, I asked about Dad's girlfriend, and they both gave me a look that meant never ever bring that woman up again. Things went back to normal, and I thought we could live happily ever after again. But that's when the hurricane hit. We had to go stay with my mom's friend because our house had no power, and it wouldn't be fixed for a few weeks. One night, my parents started arguing again, and the next morning, my dad wasn't there. After a few days, I asked Cindy why, and she told me that when the hurricane had hit, Dad said he was at work. She'd asked her boyfriend to drive her over there, and sure enough, he was at work, but she had walked in on him with his girlfriend. She told Mom straight away, and they didn't want to tell me because they knew I'd be upset. Well, I was upset and mad at my dad. Dad kept staying at his friend's, or it could have been his girlfriend's house for all we know. And then he turned up at Mom's friend's house with gifts for Mom, saying he'd never do it again, and he was so sorry. He looked so sad, standing in the rain, and so Mom forgave him. But she shouldn't have forgiven him because about 2 months later it happened again. And this time, it was me who caught him. And it happened in the most awkward way. I got a comment on Instagram. It was a photo of me and my family, and a boy wrote, "Is that your dad?" Then he sent me a message telling me that his mom was dating my dad. I felt sick. I couldn't believe what I was reading. I tapped on his profile and found out that he'd even posted a photo of him with my dad a few days ago. It felt like my dad had just replaced us with this other family. I ran straight to tell Cindy, and she told Mom, and we all just sat there crying. Seeing my mom heartbroken like that is something I never want to see again. Of course, my mom took my dad back. I don't know why. He promised it would never ever happen again. And so far, it has been 3 years and he hasn't slipped up again. But now I have this fear of dating in case I get cheated on too. I don't know how to trust people anymore. And I can't imagine what it's like to break down in front of your children, crying the way Mom did. I never want to put my future family through something like that. I love my dad so much, but I don't believe him when he says he won't do it again. I know people can change, and maybe I just need to give him the benefit of the doubt. But it makes me so anxious. Should I let it go? What do you think? Maybe we really can be a happy family after all.